Who's that guy? Hi everyone, my name is LUNARR. Today I'm going to be breaking down my new song just for tonight, out now on Safe and Sound. Alright, let's hop right into the project file here. A lot of this was samples I found on Splice. I'm not even going to hold you. I'm pretty sure that this whole project started with this sample here. Just some nice ambience. Originally, it sounds like this, but I brought it down a few semitones and post-processed it a whole lot. We have a lot of OTT, some cursed EQs. Yeah, just to kind of fill out some space, and I paired that with another pad here. And these two together really form the soul of the track. I also sent this to the same processing. During this time, I also introduced a respace, which again, another sample from Splice. Splice is the plug. And you can kind of see how it's chopped up. The sample is brought into full later, like during the drop and during the builds. But I chopped it up in the intro to avoid those higher notes that the whole sample has, like this. I wanted to avoid that for the intro, so I chopped it up. Made the bassline just a little bit more simple. You can also hear that there is a high-pass filter on this respace. We're cutting off all the low, like, sub-frequencies. That way, when I bring it in, it's a little bit more impactful. I paired this up with a piano. Took me forever to get the processing on this piano right. Some basic EQ and compression, reverb, more compression, more EQ, just to get rid of, I guess, some harsh frequencies here. So when you bring them all together, a cool effect that I like to do is also reversing the first hit of either like piano or a lead or even vocals. I like to reverse it, put a bunch of reverb on it, and it creates this nice little swell. During this intro, I also have some Foley of a kitchen timer. Just to kind of fill out a little bit of space. Some little percussive elements. I also have some generic noisy impacts. And then one hydrophone sample that plays throughout the entire track because it's liquid drum and bass. Why not have some actual liquid sounds in there? So that brings us right up into the vocals. And again, I do that same reverse trick. You'll never guess where I found the vocals from. Another cool thing that I did with the respace was I have an LFO tool on this. And that's what gives it this kind of eighth note tempo to it. And I automate the mix of this. It's modulating the volume by 100%. Then during this section, it all kind of starts to meld into one note. Let me take out the sidechain. So for this section, just some generic sweeps. Just to kind of bring some tension in. And some super generic drum and bass drums that are being filtered in as well. Little hat loop on top to give it the energy that it needs. Then here, just another little snare fill to again build up that energy in the build up. What's nice is that this track is so simple. Most of this ambience plays throughout the whole track. This bass line plays throughout almost the whole track. The piano does. I just added this little ARP. Super simple serum patch. Super simple serum patch. Just a little LFO on this volume and a compressor. That's it. And then for the post-processing, a little bit of EQ, reverb, EQ. This one isn't even doing anything. However, I am low passing it. I'm bringing those highs up. For this section here, these are actually the same notes over here. If I copy and paste them, you can see that they're just playing in reverse order. So if I hit Alt and Y, I can flip horizontally. Those are the same notes. If I hold left Alt as well, I can snap to grid and resize that to half the time. And for these guys up there, it's the same 4 notes, just brought up an octave. Same with over here, the same 4 notes, but I brought these 2 guys up an octave. And this is the exact same as this, just flip the other way. I guess that'll bring us nicely into the drop vocals. Where all it is it's just this one sample of her saying "I've," that it's stretched like way too much, and then reversed. And then I just chop that up. Now, it does sound kind of time stretched, and so I put a whole bunch of reverb on these chops, and in the mix, that stretching sound, you barely hear it. Which I'm super happy with, because I don't really like how these sound on their own, but that's fine. I also have this other one of her just doing like a little hum, just for some subtle variation. Then I also bring the vocal back. I've been trying to make a stand. And when I do that, I take out those reversed, stretched chops at the same time, just to give the vocalist a little bit more room. I've been trying to make a stand. Then they're back in when she's quiet. Then for the B section, it's the exact same thing, but just a slightly different section of it. And so with that brought in with everything else. Remember that LFO tool from the beginning with that respace? I brought that back in. Just to give it a little bit more movement. Keep the energy up during the drop. And this is sidechained to the kicks and to the snares or claps. The way that I do my sidechaining is I have all of my blue synths here going to my sidechain bus. And I use a frequency splitter so I can independently control how the lows, the mids, and the highs sidechain. It's extra. It is very extra, but I think I put it to use pretty good here. I think that just helps the mix stay a little bit cleaner. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being extra. I needed a way to get out of the drop into this breakdown. So what I did was I continued with the drums, but I have a different drum fill. I thought that sounded kind of similar to the drum loop here, but just definitely like a more laxed version of it, which is perfect. And that would help us take us from the high energy drop down to kind of this low energy mid section. And then I wanted to go even more low energy, so I needed a way to get out of these drums, to which I decided to use a crusher and just automate the rate. And that brings us nicely into this section where the vocalist comes back.
Baby, I'm on toxic. I won't let you go. Do you wanna know?
And so because that down sample was left on that whole drum bus, I had the option to reintroduce that almost as like a fake out element with the drums when the second drop hits. Is to take that big crusher, and again, I think it sounds really good with the kick and the snare in there as well. And then it just gets super clean just suddenly. And of course, during that little fake out section, I've also cut out the low end from that respace as well, just so that when the drums get clean, that respace comes back in full and the whole mix just kind of pops back in. No, I'm really happy with how this outro turned out as well. I wanted to capture something that was similar to like Post Malone's Rockstar, which I know is kind of a weird inspiration for a liquid drum and bass track. But I really like the outro with that, with how it slows down and it plays with the vocals. So I took that as some inspiration and made this really, really slow motion feeling outro. I achieved this by using that same stretched vocal chop, but only using it on some of the off beats. So half as often. I'm still using those extra hum layers as well in there. This sample here is also used in the breakdown. I think I ran the piano through a granular synthesizer. I'm not 100% what I did here. It was so long ago. but it gave it some really cool sparkling textures. You can see I also pitched it up a whole octave. And then with that same art patch that comes in during the drop, like instead of having it play super fast notes, I just let it even though they're still playing eighth notes, I let the note length themselves be quarters, which kind of gives it a slower feeling to it without losing the energy, I think. And then yeah, we brought the ARP up and let it reverb out. So a super simple song in terms of writing wise. And then for the mix here, the way that I have my FL set up is I have all my buses going to this pre-master. So it looks like I did a little bit of EQing on the overall master, and then that brought down by 2 decibels, sending that into the master here, which again, slight more EQing. Can never make up my mind with what sounds good, so I just throw 1,000 EQs on stuff. And then I use Ozone 8 for this. A little bit of side EQing. Again, this looks absolutely cursed because the mid is flat, but whatever works, I guess. A little bit of spread with stereo imager just to give it a little bit more width. And then I use IRC2 here. I use Ozone 9 on my other laptop, and I think this is a more modern one. As you can see here, it has clear and sharp limiting, which sounds a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more of a modern mix than IRC1, at least from my experience and what I think. But I recommend messing around with both of these if you do use Ozone for your mastering. I brought the threshold down here and an immediate release. That way it stays nice, loud, and punchy. It also tells you that your target is minus 14 LUFS. Not in this house, baby. And yeah, that's everything. That's the track. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys enjoyed me breaking down this track. I hope you guys like the track in general. Shout out to the guys at SafeInSound. They've been amazing. And yeah, I will see you guys around.